All right, this video is just to go over the rubric for the narrative essay more closely than we have looked at it. Whenever I grade your final draft, I will use this rubric to mark up the paper. You can see that I have plus is excellent, plus is good, X is fair. I'll just tell you that I rarely use the plus. It just takes a little bit of extra time. If it's good, it's good, and that's our goal. But if there's something that's just really just wonderful, like you might be a professional writer one day, I might mark the excellent piece. Obviously the minus is, it just needs work. There's not enough evidence of this in your essay. If it's minus, it's unsatisfactory. And then if you're missing a particular component, it's 0. So it's kind of hard to be missing stuff entirely from a narrative essay. So there's that. But so let's look at it. And I'll just tell you that, rubrics can appear in a variety of ways. For example, many rubrics will have all these boxes and levels of completion. And I used to use rubrics like that, but it's time consuming and it's not terribly helpful. Instead of giving you all of these different levels that you might hit, I would rather you focus on the number one level that I want you to hit, right? So this is what's listed here. These are the A categories, I guess. The A level. And how you meet that level is how you're ranked. Okay. And then we'll talk about later what all this means down here. So I created this rubric using, I had my own narrative rubric prior to this that I had developed over time. And then this semester, because we are spending so much time on the narrative, I pulled some other rubrics and then built this rubric that I want to use for our class. All right, so focus purposefully engages and orients the reader by setting out a problem, situation, or observation and its significance and establishing one or multiple points of view. All right, so the key here is this doesn't necessarily have to be the introduction entirely, but engages and orients. Purposefully engages is the most important phrase, I believe, in this one, because it has to be interesting. It has to get the audience's attention. And so any effort for that it gets the audience's attention, that it's interesting, that it's clear to the reader what's happening here, that's going to get your full credit. So obviously these are based on assignments, right, and specific prompts. And so it'll become pretty clear quickly what the issue is, right? So that's the focus. The whole essay is focused. And so let's just talk about that in regards to some of the drafts I've seen. If you are doing a ton of telling, like you are covering a whole lifetime, you are covering multiple people without a clear focus, that's a problem. If you fail to insert yourself into this picture, so the point of view should be from your point of view, absolutely, first and foremost. And then if you were to add in someone else's point of view, you could, like a character or whatever, but you have to establish that point of view. So there were several times on your drafts that I said, I need to see you how do you relate to the people in this story, right? So that's the focus. The entire essay is focused in, you have engaged the audience, and it's interesting, and it's clear what this problem or situation is, and we don't have multiple, issues going on, multiple problems, multiple situations. All right, organization and plot. It says well-organized and logical sequence of events that build on one another to create a coherent whole and build toward a particular tone and outcome. So because these are narratives, the most logical sequence is chronological. Now, with the only exception to that is the immediate res that I have talked to you about, how you can begin the essay in one spot and then go back and then tell it in chronological order. That's the most logical. Now, it is possible that you can create a narrative in which you jump time periods, right? Or it's not just chronological, but it's logical and it is organized well, that, you know, it makes sense to the story you're telling. It's coherent. Coherent means that it all flows well together. Everything makes sense that you're including. And in that making of the sense, there is going to be an overall tone and that leads to an outcome, right? So some of the narratives we've read have been, you know, love stories. And so that's the tone and the outcome. Some have been have been funny. Some have been wistful, right? So those are the tones that we are seeing here. The point is that the way you have organized your essay makes sense to what your purpose is. The next one says, skillfully provides a conclusion that follows from and reflects on what is experienced, observed, or resolved over the course of the narrative. So a lot of you want to start with this kind of idea in the telling, but good conclusions kind of give that, like, the moral of the story is, right? So you've shown your audience all the action, you've shown the character development, and you've shown how, you know, the characters communicate with each other. You have shown the details that you experienced. This conclusion is the time where you can tell a little bit more. You reflect on it, and it's sort of like the moral of the story. And then here's this one. Answers any questions a college level reader may have about the topic or narrative. Literally, if there's something I'm just not understanding, or your peers aren't understanding, if there's something that seems to be missing, those are the questions. So this takes a lot of effort in rereading your work, reading it aloud, making sure that you have answered all the questions that could be there, right? If I can't picture somebody's face or their and I don't know their name and I don't know what their age is, and so part of this comes with the narrative techniques, but those are questions that are left for the reader. So make sure you fill in all the blanks. It is not the reader's responsibility to fill in the blanks. It is the writer. All right. The thing that we've focused on the most, really, in all our feedback and revision is the narrative techniques. Skillfully uses narrative techniques such as sensory detailed descriptions, dialogue, interior monologue, pacing, reflection, anecdotes, and multiple plot lines, if appropriate, to develop experiences, events, setting, and or characters. So this is where the show comes in. It's the details. Notice that we're not using a specific narrative technique. It is sort of general in nature. It just uses narrative techniques. And this is so important. So most of your essays, I have said, you need more details. You need more descriptions. You need to show more than you tell. That's this section here. I will just give a shout out. Your Allie Payne, your classmate, does a really good job with this stuff. So go back, or well, we can't go back and look at each other's. I'm thinking about opening, pulling all the drafts down so that you all can read your feedback again for revision. But anyway, if I do that, go back and look at Allie's narrative techniques that she uses in her essay. So this top portion here has to do with the essay itself, the stories that are being told, right? Now let's talk about some like logistics stuff. So language uses purposeful and varied sentence structure. So this is where sort of our mechanics stuff comes in. Are your sentences all the same? And they're not. So far you guys have done just fine on sentence structure. And are they purposeful? Are they meaningful? It says utilizes precise, which I don't know why uses and utilizes precise and sophisticated word choice. This is where we avoid using words like thing and very and stuff. We want to be specific with our words. We want to be precise. And not rely. We don't want to be crazy. We don't want to look up all the synonyms. We don't want to overuse the thesaurus, right? But we do want to use specific words, avoid those vague words. And then contains minimal to no errors and conventions. This is where we're talking about subject-verb agreement, punctuation, spelling, capitalization, and we have been working on this stuff, in the editing practice and in the essay error codes cover all of this. I will tell you, I don't know that I've covered it well enough, but the comma is the most common error in freshman English. So absolutely, if you have been getting 57s marked on your essay error codes, make sure you study that section and understand how to use commas properly. And then we have some specifics like, have you paid attention to the assignment itself? So the narrative, real or imagined, insightfully addresses all aspects of the writing task, including guiding theme and page count. So if you have followed the instructions of what you're supposed to be writing about, how many pages it's supposed to be, you're fine. MLA manuscript formatting is used throughout the assignment. I have several students still who are not formatting the essay properly, and it is part of your grade. You will not get full. You may have the best essay ever, but if it's not formatted properly, it's not an A+ like it could and should be. And then, of course, give the assignment a title. It should reflect the message of the essay. I've seen some really good titles so far in these assignments. So again, the top half is very much focused on the story itself and how you have presented it. And then the bottom half is more like aesthetics and logistics stuff. Okay. This is the last half. Okay. So the way I grade this, none of these do not have weights to them. If I were to weight this particular, these essays, I would probably give narrative techniques a heavier weight. But the thing is, these different categories don't have numbers assigned to them in any way. That's why I like grading with words. If you're good, you get a plus. And if I look up here and I see all pluses, then you're in this area here. An English teacher, especially one who's been teaching 19 years like myself, can look at a paper and say, oh, this is an A paper. This is a B paper, right? So there's that. Let me just tell you that right away. But I can also glance at the way you have accomplished these criteria and use these to mark your paper. So you can still receive an A with the proficient. And notice what it says. Your work is good, but you still have a few areas to improve. You can get mastery with still a couple of details left to improve upon if your work is outstanding. Satisfactory, and notice how, before I move on to satisfactory, notice how big the proficient scale is. It's a B+, A-. It's a pretty large range there, but that's because we will have various levels of what's good and what's not. Some people have pretty good, but there's still tons of work to do, so they might get the 85. Some people might have good work, not too much to improve upon, but still a little bit, it's not quite mastery level. Satisfactory is B- area. It's okay. It's not great writing, but there's some areas in which to improve. Starting, and I also like this phrase here. Let's look at this. Student has demonstrated strong content understanding. It is evident that you understood the assignment, right? Student has demonstrated content understanding, so you understood the assignment. Student has demonstrated understanding of the assignment via criteria. Work is okay. So you're following the assignment. You're doing what you're supposed to generally, but maybe you don't have that many descriptive details. Maybe you're doing way too much telling instead of showing. Student has demonstrated partial understanding. This shows that maybe you didn't fully understand what the assignment was. Maybe you did not look at any of your feedback. You didn't, try to fix anything. You didn't, whatever it is. Many areas still need student work. And you do have a big range here. This is a C. And most 70s, most C minuses are just like lack of effort, pretty much. I mean, it's there. You've got a general idea, but it's lack of effort. And then we have incomplete. Student has demonstrated little or no understanding. More areas than not need significant work. So all of your drafts have been pretty decent so far. You have to revise, one of them. So I don't anticipate anybody making an incomplete. And then, of course, if you just really don't care, don't try, or plagiarize, then you get the unacceptable. All right, so I don't know if this has been helpful or not, but I don't want to mark these rubrics in revision stage because I want you to work with these rubrics. I want you to read them. I want you to, check your own work. What do you think? Because that's the only way that you can improve yourself. And then I'll grade them the one time, at final. But I'm always happy to look at your drafts as you are revising. All right, thank you.